I was born in Leicestershire, and it was the war, and my mother's from Leicestershire. I've got family in North Wales, up in the mountains. Welsh-speaking, very Celtic, high in the mountains, isolated. I went to a university called Reed College up in Portland, Oregon, which was sort of bizarre in the late 60s. Ken Kesey was living on the lawn, and Ken Kesey's books were the most current books in 69, 70. One Flew Over a Cuckoo's Nest. I went to New York City after Reed. I'd opened a little tiny restaurant and worked very hard and got given the job of reopening Tavern on the Green, which at the time was the largest restaurant in New York, and worked on the River Cafe, which is another very, very smart restaurant under the Brooklyn Bridge. And then went to South Carolina and Georgia and did restaurants of my own. There's a very good architect in Charleston called Reggie Gibson, and he'd done a restaurant for me in Charleston. And he wanted to come out here, and he came and lived with us. I mean, it really was rather odd. Rather whimsically, he said, plant a vineyard, plant some vines. There were no lofty ambitions or anything. So we planted these vines, and then we squeezed the grapes in the kitchen. And this wine was actually palatable. And then when we fermented it, it actually turned into wine, which is also a bit of a miracle. And we got absolutely plastered. We ended up making 10 cases of wine, and it was jolly good. Well, we thought it was jolly good. The first wines we made were in 98, and then we made wines in 99 and 2000 that were good, and 2001. And then 2002, the wines were delicious, but we later discovered, we didn't know, they didn't hold up. And then I brought these lads on board, David and Ben, and that made a huge difference. And they were properly trained, and they were knowledgeable, and they had deep knowledge. So we didn't feel quite as vulnerable after that. This year we went from 1,300 cases to 3,500 cases. That's massive. I've actually decided to reduce the number of cases we'll do next year. I want it to be more pleasant. I'd like to be where there was a really symbiosis between the incredible commitment the restaurants have to wonderful food and where they buy and how they treat their staff and all the other things that are incumbent in being a responsible businessman. And I'd like to feel there's a symbiosis with that and the vineyard. Farming anywhere is biblical. It's a biblical pursuit. For it to have any satisfaction, it has to have all the elements of pain that are biblical. So the idea of churning out wine in a place that's absolutely ideal has no appeal. So there is something entrancing about the idea it's impossible to make wine here, but we do. We had quarter-sized hail hitting the building, tearing off every limb and leaf, and still knowing that we had to proceed. This is called tucking vines. What you're trying to do is get them within the wires, so when the wind is extremely severe, which it can be at this time of year, it doesn't snap the growth. We tuck them all so they don't break. This whole place is working. We've been terrified to tear anything off because we feared there wouldn't be enough leaf. There wouldn't be enough photosynthesis. They feel good. One of the things you have to always look at is you have to feel the leaf. And if the leaf is cool, even at the height of the summer, height of the sun, if the leaf is cool, it means that the vine is healthy, it's getting sufficient moisture. If the leaf isn't cool, doesn't matter if it's a blazing sun, it's 100 degrees, you're not getting it. So that's a fairly simple way of looking at things, but it's true. And you don't really want to do that very often. That breaks off it's probably a third of a bottle or something. That's a nightmare, is that you can actually talk somebody into drinking something that's absolutely bilious. That's a nightmare. It haunts everybody who makes wine, trust me. It gets kind of silly. You can actually inject somebody who's an idiot into it, and they come out just as well as the guys who know about it. They go, I'm tasting, I don't know, it's like springtime. No, I'd call it fall, you know, it's like nutty. Now, if I wax eloquent about something that is this usual wine rant, you have to stop me. But I would want them to feel that it was a generous wine, it was approachable. It was a wine for all of us to drink and enjoy. The amount of trouble and care, I think it sort of comes out of the wine. You know there's no cynicism in this funny little operation.
Ew.
And you know the cynicism in Kendall Jackson and Beringer, these huge multi-unit corporations. You can smell care. You can smell creativity. You can smell commitment. You can stink of commitment. It's lovely.